Aaron, what is your reaction to this? And I don't know, do we call it a proposal? Do we call it a plan? Do we call it an idea? What's your reaction to it?
My head was exploding when I listened to the press conference. 27 years of working for Republicans and Democrats, from the Carter administration to Bush 43. No administration that I worked for ever conceived of an idea which was more detached from reality and more dangerous, perhaps with the exception, and that there was context here with respect to 9/11 for our invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. And it just strikes me how much of an outlier the president actually is. You have a situation where the U.S. has now tethered itself to an approach which, at best, will be interpreted as forced transfer. Number one, he's undermined traditional U.S. allies, Egypt and Israel, who doesn't look at this they don't look at it as a real estate deal. It's an existential threat for them to absorb large numbers of Palestinians. He's validated the fantasies and the narrative of the Israeli right. And he sent an unmistakable signal to Putin and to Xi that if, in fact, you want territory, you simply aspire to it, and you state your capacity completely untethered from anything, international law, logic, rationality, to basically assert your control over it. And it was all done standing next to an Israeli prime minister who looked like a cat that had just swallowed a canary. The real takeaway, final point, Jose, the real takeaway here is not the unserious proposal by an unserious president over Gaza. The real takeaway to me is the fact that this press conference was a no daylight between Israel and the U.S. press conference. He's equipped the prime minister with talking points that will help him keep his government together. And it just seems to me what's at stake here is real. That is to say, the implementation of the first and second phase of the Gaza agreement. He more or less stepped away from that. Those are the thoughts.
Aaron, I'm just thinking about your vast experience on issues. And, I think it's important to just, underline just how much experience you have and how many different negotiations you have been a part of. And I'm just wondering, when all of those negotiations, for the vast majority of them, ended up with no progress for the Palestinian people. And, Camp David and the Abraham Accords, yes. But, Aaron, where does negotiating the same terms and under the same language become just an echo repeating itself? And where do you draw the line, Aaron, on stating things that are completely maybe impossible, but that as a negotiating tactic could at least elicit a different conversation?
Yeah, I stand alone in terms of the number of failed negotiations I've participated in. But this is not that. This is something that goes beyond even failed American peacemaking efforts. This is an effort to shackle the Arab states with the absorption of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who have already been traumatized and are going to become refugees again should this plan be implemented. And it's so detached from reality that I think it has zero chance of being implemented. But what is missing here, Jose, is leadership. And if you want a resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, if you want a conflict-ending solution, if you want to best all previous efforts by Republicans and Democrats, then what you need are Israeli and Palestinian leaders who are masters of their political houses, not prisoners of their ideologies, leaders who are prepared to recognize that negotiation is not based on an asymmetry of power, but on a balance of interests. And together with those Israeli-Palestinian leaders, you need an American president who's got will and skill and a reasonable interpretation of what is required to solve, or at least to begin to address, what I call the problem of the much too promised land. That's missing. You don't have leadership in Israel, you don't have leadership in Palestine, and you certainly, based on what I saw last night, you don't have leadership in Washington.